Okay, wonderful. So, welcome back. Welcome back. So, I would love to invite you to focus on our last session, which explores one of the most, what do you call it, most provocative, most, what are the words? Transformative, most esoteric, thank you. Most confusing. What else? What are other words that I can use? Well, one of the thing that is really shaping our today and our future, which is technology and artificial intelligence. So please welcome our moderator, Dr. Rose Procter. She is the Executive Director of the Center for Ethical Leadership here at UNG and Associate Director for Ethics and Compliance at Georgia Technology Authority Office of AI. Rose. Oh, where did you go? Thank you. Welcome, welcome.
Yes.
And since you have your panelists, I'm going to just let you go ahead. Yeah?
I'm ready.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So, as she mentioned, it's an honor to be here. My name is Rose. I have many facets here at the university. I also teach ethics and compliance, and we've launched the Ethics DNA project, which really is about the importance of ethical considerations when we're thinking about any emerging technology, artificial intelligence being one of many that are kind of emerging out and being more used. So as we get to our panelists, one of the things to open up our panel is that artificial intelligence is not new. We've had AI around for a really long time. If anybody in the audience has ever used like spell checker, anybody remember that? Right? A tool, one of your good friends, spell checker, was really a very basic, original artificial intelligence. And so as we talk about, reimagining technology, some of the difference is how we use it, how we engage in it, what data it has access to. So some of these are really some of the critical questions when we think about reimagining technology. So as we talk about that conversation, I want to introduce and give some time for introductions to our panelists. And so we'll start with our lead panelist, Yumi, if you want to give a brief introduction, and then maybe just a little bit of a touch of your involvement in artificial intelligence.
Okay. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for having me here. My name is Yumi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of LEAD. My involvement with AI is about 10 years. So my initial AI startup is a camera app that uses facial recognition and cloud computing. And we had an IPO 9 years ago. And after that, it just inspired me to really teach AI to know something new. So what we do today at LEAD is to teach AI to understand the organizational context, like organizational behavior. So that's like a really interesting thing, right? Like how people making decision, collaboration, and execution. And then we can use those data to make AI and enterprise search much more accurate, as well as AI agents, so they really understand the organizational context.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Hi.
It's on. Mm-hmm.
I'm Masa Maruyama, CEO of the Saison Technologies International. The Saison Technologies International, we started like a data integration platform, and now we're serving more than 10,000 customers in worldwide for enterprise. How we involve with AI is because we handle all the data sets every day. AI is quite easy to adopt, and we utilize customers' data and collaborate with AI. And one of the thing we started like an initiative from last 2 years ago was we invested venture capital in Bay Area and collaborate with startups. Because as you know, in Bay Area, there are lots of startups, especially for AI. In these 2 years, most of venture capitalists invest into AI, and they have a incredible mindset and the concepts, how they adapt with AI. So we invest in those startups through venture capital and make a collaboration and provide those technology into our customers. Thank you.
Okay, awesome.
Hi, I'm Bill Winans. I'm a Georgia native, lived my whole life here in Gwinnett County. or I guess there in Gwinnett County. And I spent about half my career as a consultant, being the product expert, and I've spent the other half of my career working for technology companies. And in my last several roles, I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for quite a while. Right now I head up alliances for Sitetracker, which is on the Salesforce platform. Salesforce is one of the kind of leading voices for AI. And, you know, so we have a strong point of view on, yes, you have kind of the interesting, sexy use cases for how to use AI, but how does it really manifest for your traditional, you know, technology worker? How do people actually adopt that? And so, you know, my role is working with a lot of our consulting partners and trying to help guide our customers to, you know, that best use case for how to actually use the technology. Yes, we can create it, but it doesn't mean anything unless they adopt it. Thank you.
Very good.
I'm Jim Hoadley. I'm the Associate Director of the Center for International Business Education and Research. So if you think cyber means that we know something about technology, we don't. The fact that I am here is mainly because they didn't want me to talk. They wanted me to have the AI do the talking instead. So I'm getting that queued up, and we will have the AI talking for itself by the end of the panel.
What is a technology reimagined panel on artificial intelligence without incorporating some artificial intelligence? And so James will be working on that, and we'll be able to hear from the AI in regards to some of the questions. So I think for our audience, one of the difficulties in talking about technology in general, but particularly AI, is what is it? There are lots of different definitions of artificial intelligence and how we're integrating it. That is also changing in the last panel. Melissa, you and your team talked about just how quickly things are changing, and for our workforce to be paying attention to skilling and reskilling and those types of things. But there's also lots of different levels of artificial intelligence. And Bill, I think you mentioned about some of the sexy use cases. I don't know, we might use a different word as like terrifying or exciting, any of these types of words that come to mind. But we're also going to try and talk about some of those use cases of how are you actually using it? What does that look like? What are some of the gaps between what you see in the media of what's coming versus what the capabilities are currently? So I'd like for our panelists to start in that realm of definition, in the sense of what is AI and what have been some of the ways that you guys have approached it as far as like how you're using it. And so we'll start, Yumi, on this side, and next time I'll start on your side, James. So Yumi?
Yeah, so I think AI is any software that able to recognize pattern from data. It can be anything from like Google Translator all the way to agentic AIs. There's a lot of different ways to train it. There's like a LLM everybody knows right now, and also we can from videos, voice, and mixed model, and also speech to test. And then there's workflow automations, like a lot of different things.
Okay, Masa.
So I think Yumi covered the AI, so I want to talk about it a little bit different way. So AI is mainly used for task automation, where it's going to be really repetitive workflow. Now we're talking about like AGI, ASI. You know, have you ever heard of AGI and ASI? Or a little bit. So I would say AGI is artificial generative intelligence, where it's most similar to human. The human means you have more creativities and have imagination and reasonings. The AGI is like a reasoning. How, if you do some outputs, then what's the reason behind it? That's what AGI. Some of the CEO or founders talking about that's going to happen this year. Might be 2030. It takes 5 or 4 years. So it depends. But the next level AI is AGI. And ASI is artificial super intelligence, which means beyond human being. The AI can talk each other, and they make own decisions without any human involved. So it's still conceptual, but everyone in the industry is talking about AI, AGI, and ASI, and everyone have a confusion what you talk about AI. So I would say for AI for the next couple of years is more task automation where you can make more productivities, high efficiencies. So don't scare so much, but you have to track and watch what's going on with the current AI.
So a few years back, you heard nothing on the news except for we're in the information age, or we're in the data age. At the end of the day, data memory storage got cheap. But the question is, how do we actually leverage that data? You can only read so much at a time. And so that's what AI is enabling us, is to actually get intelligence from that data context. Of course, the biggest challenge we have now is what data do we put in? We hear all about hallucinations. And, well, we call those lies. And the biggest challenge we have is
ethics too.
So the biggest challenge we have now is how do we make sure that we are feeding in the right data so that we can get the right answers and not something that's absolutely made up. So it's having that kind of digital supply chain of what data went in, what information and answers to our questions are we getting out, and then how do we actually action that, and then to what extent do we trust that intelligence to action it on our behalf versus is this just something that's going to speed up the human element to it? So that's where I see a lot of this going.
Here's a clear, tight answer. Artificial intelligence is software designed to perform tasks that normally require human judgment. That can include recognizing patterns, understanding language, making predictions, or generating content. It's not consciousness, it's not awareness, it's pattern recognition at scale. Modern AI systems are trained on massive data sets, which allows them to predict likely answers, summarize information, or suggest actions. So at its core, AI is a decision support tool. The intelligence comes from data and math. The responsibility still belongs to humans.
I'm glad I didn't have to follow that.
So I think when we think about definitions, one of the things that we want as a takeaway today is just anytime you are interacting with AI or thinking about incorporating AI is to sit back and think for a moment of what do you want it to do? What is the purpose or the why that you are using that and see it as an actual tool? And so we talked a little bit, I think someone said over here, of supporting humans, right? Not replacing necessarily. Now, we won't talk about ASI. That might be to the point of replacing, right? Surpassing that super intelligence. And we'll talk about, some of that in this next question. So we had like really big questions with lots of information, but I thought to basically boil it down to what excites you about artificial intelligence and what you're seeing as far as like the opportunities. I think all of us in the audience can relate to that. And then also what you might see as some of the challenges or even fears, that it is something that are difficult conversations, but that we need to be talking about now. And we'll get into some of that a little bit more in some of the use cases most likely. But let's start with Bill. We won't start with the AI because I just won't do that to you, Bill. But let's start with Bill as far as like what opportunities you see, what you're excited about most as we kind of go in this journey around artificial intelligence. But then on the flip side, some of the things that you would see as cautionary or even a fear.
Let me start with the fears because those are always the most fun. So, the biggest challenges we have is, when we're asking these questions, we're having to provide data to give context to what we're actually asking. And this is where our early stage of data governance and even data residency has been one of the biggest risks I see, especially in, I should say corporate America, but it's really corporate anywhere. You had the use case, I think last year, where some Samsung executives upload a whole bunch of blueprints to something like ChatGPT and asked its opinion, and then suddenly they don't have control over the data that they uploaded. So what does that then do to train their language models? When the next person asks, hey, what about this possible invention idea? And they say, well, let me reference this proprietary blueprint that somebody uploaded.
Yes.
So these are some of the, kind of the human governance sides of what do you upload? How do you make sure that what you're interacting with is actually native to just your use case? Make sure that you can provide that context. But at the same time, the more we can provide our own data sets and provide our own very specific context, I'll use the Salesforce use case. If your entire organization runs off of one single platform, that means that all of your company's data is able to feed an AI to give it context. So when you ask questions about when do we have seasonality in our supply chain, when do we have challenges with backlogs, et cetera, you can ask an AI that has the context of your specific organization, and that is the biggest opportunity for most traditional companies that you have out on the market today. It's getting a lot more intelligence about the data that they already have.
When it comes to opportunity, what excites me most is leverage. AI lowers the barrier to entry for high-skill tasks. A small team can now analyze data, draft strategy documents, write code, or build prototypes at a level that used to require much larger teams. That creates speed, and speed creates opportunity. On the caution side, the risk is over-reliance. If people outsource their thinking instead of augmenting it, skill atrophy becomes real. There are also concerns around data privacy, bias, and transparency. The tool is powerful, but power without judgment can create new problems just as quickly as it solves old ones. The future belongs to people who combine capability with discernment.
That was a great answer.
Hard to answer.
Yeah. Masa?
It's so tough. So the threat is more the employees' education, I would say. So because AI is quickly learn and they memorize everything where we don't sometimes remember it, how the employee is going to adapt with this environment. And every week when you look at ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, the Gemini, they improve a lot. They can't do anything last week, but they can do right now. So how, as a human, can easily adapt with this environment? You have to learn and use it every day. Otherwise, you're going to miss some opportunities. So this is kind of a not fairness, but it's also going to be opportunities. And as a human being, we have to adapt with the environment. So I would say, as you have a curiosity and you have a good questions, then you can be survived. But if you don't have any curiosities or any interest, then you can not learn from them. So I would say it's better to try and challenges. If you're not comfortable, but it's better just try it and see what's going on. Because technology is so fast and so improving every day. And now all of the investors invest in those markets, right? And they have tons of money over there. And all the engineers are looking how they can improve every day. And they are so serious how to be successful. So look at this as opportunities and try and challenge. I think ChatGPT or Claude can answer that questions.
Yeah, Copilot. Yumi?
So I think what's really exciting for younger people and people who don't really know certain subjects is that they can use AI to research and answer. For example, a few like Columbia student applied to my company's internship. I was like, wow, their answers are so good. But also, it's really scary, and what concerning me is that they don't really know the context. So if you, so I handle some interns' tasks. The answer's really good, but it doesn't really fit into my company's context, and it's not really usable. So I think it's really important is that ask the right question and then figure out where the source is from the answer. And another thing is that I think the authority issue is really concerning. For example, a larger company, if any employee can ask any questions, then traditionally there's certain questions that you're not supposed to know. And then if the AI is giving that out, like how do you actually run a company? So that's something we need to think about.
So as we think about, kind of what's exciting or what's scary or what's fearful, and what opportunities we have, I think one of the takeaways from today may be just honing in, and I think you mentioned about skill replacement, in the sense that if we do outsource, right, not necessarily research, but just our own critical thinking. And they talked about this when Uber, started doing autonomous vehicles. What will it be like for us if we don't drive? And I don't mean that from a productivity standpoint. We mean that because driving for you is a daily task that puts a lot of responsibility at your fingertips. You are multitasking, you are critically thinking, you are making decisions that hopefully keep yourself and others out of harm, some of you in harm, but hopefully for the most part, right, we're responsibly driving. And that pushes critical thinking. It pushes responsibility. It pushes humanity, that's not another human being in the car next to me. When you remove that daily kind of grind of critical thinking and responsibility, what will that do? We really don't know the answer to that question yet. There's a lot of theories. A lot of people talk about WALL-E, if you've ever seen that movie, where we just become kind of worthless and we float around and the robots bring us everything and we can't think or walk. And that's like the really fear kind of end point. But the other aspect of that is, if we keep that skill, what else can we think about? And so to your point about the questions, how we get to questions that maybe we weren't asking before because we were so inundated with the tasks, right? Figuring out the data, where if we've got a tool to help with that, now what does that free us up to critically think about? And so I think that's some of the exciting opportunity. Let's talk about some of those opportunities in the sense of use cases. So I think one of the areas around artificial intelligence that's really helpful, at least for me, as we're kind of going through some of the ethical considerations, is how people are actually using it. What does that look like? How did it benefit? What are some of the hallucinations or misinformation that came out? And so I don't know where we want to start. Maybe, Masa, if you want to start with just a use case of exactly, just an example of how you guys are using artificial intelligence or some of your clients.
So we have several use cases we use for AI. The most typical thing is coding. We do the software development, and we use AWS Q or those technologies to prompt the code, and they generate all of the coding. But that's only 80%. 20% of the work is the human. The engineers have to verify all the codings. And also we utilize for documentation. Most of the engineer, unfortunately, doesn't want to document. Everyone talking about you have to look at code. That was kind of a past 2 decades. But now, once you generate the code, then you can automatically generate documentations. So that's one of the aspects we do in-house. But also, when we talk with the customer, they have a huge customer support team. They're receiving more than 1,000 inquiries almost every day or every month. And most of the questions is on the website. So why don't you use chatbot? And the chatbot is, they work 24/7. So you don't have to hire 24/7. They can just go with a 9 to 5. And the rest of the time, they can just use the chatbot. And you need some time to gradually educate the customer, because if they don't want to talk with the chatbot, then they want to call to the customer support. But if they have start from 5 to 9, and then afterwards they can just talk to the chatbot, then they gradually start to use it that way. So there are several ways that you can utilize AI, and I think that's 2 examples. I can talk for more than 2 hours, so I'm just going to finish here.
Yeah. Yumi?
Yes, in my company, we use it for summarize meeting and also market research. But of course, people need to supervise and see what's the outcome. But one thing really interesting is to use AI to analyzing. So we have some clients work with us to analyzing how people use their time. For example, how many teams are actually really busy, like have all of their calendar blocked, and then how is a certain type of people with productivity loss because of like a lot of people try to use their time. Thinking about this as a knowledge preservation, if everybody's relying on 1 or 2 people to get all the company workflow goals, what if those people leave the company? Who else can step up and help the company work? So there's a lot of pattern recognition that we use AI to help our customers.
Do we want to go to AI? Oh, Bill.
I really appreciate those examples because they make this concrete. This isn't abstract AI. It's operational AI. What you're describing shows a clear pattern. AI handles the repetitive 70 or 80%, like drafting code or answering common support questions. Humans handle the critical 20%, verification, judgment, and complex cases. That's the shift in the job market. Roles don't disappear overnight. The task mix changes. The value moves toward oversight, refinement, and decision-making. So the opportunity for everyone here is to become excellent at the part AI can't reliably do alone.
Okay.
That was a great response. Let me build on that a little bit. So I work for a software company, and I have for many years. So the question we're always asking is, yes, how can we use AI internally? But even more importantly, how do our customers actually benefit from it? And at the end of the day, our customers, we sell B2B. Our customers are other companies. So how do we help other companies to move widgets or to operate more efficiently, to reduce costs for when they move widgets? And so what we end up seeing is a lot more interesting use cases of their interaction with our data and our products. One of my favorite examples is if we're enabling field service technicians. Let's say somebody that's going to go out and repair an HVAC, one of the big building size air conditioners. And they can take a picture of it, upload it, and say, what is this part? It's making a funny noise. And they actually get a response that contextually is reading all of the manuals, reading all of the support forums, et cetera, to say, this is part A103, it needs to be replaced. Would you like to automatically order that for you? Here's the lead time, inform the customer. So it's that helping our business customers to serve their customers better is generally how I see the biggest use cases.
I'll say a lot of the use cases do come from problems. So for higher education, I know this is going to be a really shock to you, but we have parking problems. Lots of them. Where's my students in the audience? Yes. So one of the areas in higher education is around space optimization. Wouldn't it be great to be able to, as soon as you come up on your phone, you're seeing exactly where an open parking spot is? And so taking a lot of that data and those types of elements and putting that together. Another one around space optimization is we have a lot of buildings. We have a lot of space. People are like, I wish I just knew exactly where I could hold a meeting. And so in our event management systems, they're starting to incorporate artificial intelligence in order to kind of manage all of that. I think there's also value just in today, we can't talk about all of them, is to educate yourself on use cases, both at a really large scale in the sense of something, like how Cigna Insurance is using artificial intelligence in their medically necessary claim process. And there's both pros and cons to that. And educating yourself of like, what are my concerns? What questions do I have about that, of how they're integrating it? Another large scale one that's kind of concerning is smart courts. So they're using those in other countries around federal sentencing guidelines. So you can imagine how many in the audience would want to be federally sentenced by a machine? Anybody? Any takers? Right. So using those use cases and just seeing how things are being integrated, almost always there's kind of this fear element to some of those aspects, but then there's also some really big benefits in some of them. One of the things that's really controversial right now is a grief bot. Does anybody know anything about the artificial intelligence in that space or what that is? Okay, research that when you leave. It's coming quickly. So a grief bot is an artificial intelligence that's built off of basically a dead loved one. To continue communication, to have that person in your life, to, yes, it gets both reactions in the sense that it can be a really beneficial transition tool for someone that's really grieving from loss, but at the same time it can create unrealistic expectations about death, right? And someone being gone. And there's lots of privacy concerns with that as well. So these use cases are important, and it's not just artificial intelligence, but also the technologies that are integrating into that. So just here in Georgia, if you haven't been keeping up with Hyundai, they have made a partnership around 30,000 robotics that will be integrated by 2028 into Savannah, into the Hyundai plant. And so keeping up on like what does that look like, what are the AI systems within those robotics is important. And so, you know, just kind of keep looking at those use cases, not just at, you know, a daily level, but also just kind of what's happening around you, particularly for career progression. So because we're at the Japan, you know, American Society event, I want to talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the integration and or even some of the sexy hype around artificial intelligence between Japan and the United States. What do you see as different? What are you seeing as far as use cases, you know, there that's not being used here, or any insight that you have into, you know, kind of the Japanese use of artificial intelligence? Who wants to start? Okay, Masa.
So in Japan, one of the example is earthquake. Almost every day they have an earthquake, and they tracking all the data every day, every minute, and they try to predict when the earthquake is going to come. So it's not just the AI, but they have some sort of technologies that they help the people or the society to come up with. So that's one of the example. And also they have a robotics companies around there. They're trying to implement AI. And especially for Japan, as you may know, in 2070, that's I think the decent prediction. The 1/3 of the population going to be decreased because of the aging. This is very critical as long as we don't have any immigrants in Japan. So looking for those population trends and their own technologies, there are lots of space that robotics or AI can help. And that's going to be, I think, creating some opportunities when you think about Japan, a market, as well as U.S., Japanese companies in the United States.
Yeah, I think in the US, a lot of companies are doing their preparatory research on how to build language models and different type of AI models, and they use that for sales, automation, HR, bunch of different teams, and then they usually care about if we build a model, and then that will be able to apply to many different teams, different companies, so it's like more at scale. But the inside right now, there's a lot of issues about you know, security and responsibility and a bunch of different things. So the usage is actually very limited to pilot, and then a lot of companies don't really have a lot of adoption there. For Japan, because of the aging issue and then labor issue, people are more likely to invest something that have immediate ROI. For example, elder care, something more repeating, so they are able to use that IoT technology to integrate a software into you know, robots, so the robots can do something for the people. But also there's some small issues is that I forgot what I was trying to say. Yeah, the integration issue, because you also need to adopt like certain things for like certain type of environment. So now those are some opportunities and challenges I see in both the US and Japan.
And just internationally, you'll see a lot like 1X, if anybody's familiar with 1X, the corporation, their Neo beta release is really for the elder care in home. And so if you haven't looked at that, it's kind of fascinating to watch their videos for that. Bill?
So I've actually tried to hire people in Japan. One of the biggest challenges, especially in Tokyo, is there are more job openings than there are people. And so trying to find people that are willing to switch jobs or willing to, or just trying to find the right skill set in general is a monumental challenge. And so one of the as Masa mentioned, with the demography issues that Japan is facing, with the declining workforce, the question very much comes, how do we do more with less? How do we make the existing workers we have that much more efficient? And as the previous panel mentioned, Japan traditionally doesn't look at next year, even next 10 years. They're looking, decades down the road. And as this is a decades down the road issue, growing today, it's something that is very much top of mind. So it's how do we drive those efficiencies of especially knowledge workers to be even more efficient in their role so they can actually achieve more with fewer people, which unfortunately is the direction that the Japanese workforce is going today.
Bill, that's a really important observation. When you have more open jobs than available workers, the AI debate changes completely. It's not about replacing people, it's about supporting them. How do we make the existing workforce more productive without increasing burnout? In that context, AI becomes an augmentation tool. It helps match skills more effectively, automate repetitive tasks, and allow employees to focus on higher value contributions. And to your point about short-term thinking, the real opportunity is when companies stop using AI just to cut costs next quarter and start using it to build long-term capability.
Great answer. I think that's one of the concerns, right? The objections or fears around artificial intelligence is the replacement. Like, will I lose my job? Most of what we're hearing is that some of that concern is coming from an environment thinking that there are people in those jobs now. And so some of our partners, particularly in supply chain and logistics, get a little bit frustrated because they are saying, well, you're making an assumption that I have drivers and factory workers and these when I don't. I don't have people applying for those positions. I have vacancies. Panera Bread actually just recently talked about this because if you've recently been in, they have kiosks that welcome their guests, and you order from those, and there's much fewer employees that are actually working in the restaurant. And the CEO said that was out of necessity. We couldn't hire people. No one was applying. And so if we wanted to keep operating, we had to come up with a solution of what can that look like. And so I think that is the kind of this give and take in the workforce around replacement versus, supporting so that the companies can continue to exist and you can still get your Panera. So I know this is a big topic. We have a lot of questions. I want to give time for the audience to just raise your hand, ask a question. If it's not something we know, we'll just ask the AI. So let's open it up for Q&A. Yes, and I have a mic up here too. Oh, you got it? Okay.
Thank you. Hello. Okay. So kind of like 3 parts, but answer whatever works for you. But I wanted to hear if you had any kind of basic prompting advice for AI for prompting for personal or work, however you want to do that. And then if you knew any kind of resources where we can better learn about AI and how to utilize it, as well as kind of, I noticed I actually have the paid version of ChatGPT, and it is so biased towards what it thinks that I want out of it. And I don't like that. Sometimes it's kind of good, but I would really like to also have kind of a more unbiased answer as well, like less biased. Do you have advice on that as well?
Bill?
That's a great question. I like the way you're thinking about that. Now that's the AI response, right?
Yeah. Right after it's biased, it tells you how awesome you are.
So let me actually challenge that a little bit of, the question around what are your favorite prompts. I think that's the biggest issue I see right now is everybody thinks about it in terms of how they can use it directly. Everybody thinks of AI in terms of ChatGPT or that similar chatbot model. But the way I'm seeing it actually adopted in industry is more on the backside. It's the automations. It's computers talking to other companies' computers. So it's driving those types of efficiencies. So yes, how we use it and how we get the help writing emails and drafting resumes, et cetera, is fantastic. But where we're seeing the investment, the billions of dollars that companies are spending, that's where I would encourage you to, again, I'm been in the Salesforce ecosystem for a while. They have their own trailheads. They do everything like they're going on a hike. Their own trailheads and learning paths that you can take for how they're actually adopting it. And then you look at the same thing for not just Salesforce, but HubSpot and Microsoft, getting outside of the traditional chatbot interaction with AI. That's where we're seeing it actually adopted in industry.
Great question. I'll take that in 3 quick parts. First, prompting advice. Be specific about role, goal, and format. Instead of saying, explain this, say, explain this as if you're briefing a manager in 5 bullet points. The clearer your instructions, the better the output. Second, learning resources. The best way to learn is hands-on experimentation, but also look for courses from major universities, reputable tech companies, and research labs that focus on AI literacy, not just hype. Learn the limitations as much as the capabilities. Third, bias. AI systems reflect patterns in their training data and sometimes try to be overly helpful. If you want a more neutral response, explicitly ask for multiple perspectives. For example, give me the strongest argument for and against this. You can also say, avoid assumptions and present uncertainty clearly. The quality of output improves dramatically when you instruct the system how to think.
So I will say, are you a student here at the University of North Georgia?
No, I work in manufacturing, actually.
Oh, okay, okay. So in our region, there are a lot of universities that are actually offering artificial intelligence courses, even free of charge. So at Georgia Tech, out of the School of Interactive Computing, Brent O'Gwyn offers workshops out in the community. You can sign up for those. There are certificates, even in our Evergreen Learning, that you can sign up for that really kind of gives you some of that. There's also prompt engineering. So looking for resources on prompt engineering. There's some really neat TED Talks that even just give you some insights of what you were just talking about, of asking really specific questions. Another way to get ChatGPT or any of the large language models to give you different perspectives is to say, I want you to look at this through all 4 major ethical perspectives and give me an individual answer for each. So each of those ethical perspectives naturally disagreed with each other of what was good or an ethical decision. And so it'll give you one from an Immanuel Kant perspective versus a John Stuart Mill, and it actually really gives you something to critically think about instead of just kind of a boilerplate, answer. Other thoughts? Yeah, Masa.
So if you want to get more accurate answers, then you should specify the data sources. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you put in the garbage, then it's going to be garbage out. So you have to specify what data source. For example, just searching a couple of websites, you can ask the prompt that I need this. I want to understand AI. Can you give me 3 different data sources? And they're going to start to look at all of the information from there. That's one example of things. The other thing is, same as human being, if you have any members, you don't want to have only one answer. You want to get some options. So you can ask to prompt them that I need a couple options, and also add pros and cons. And then you can analyze which one you want to take it, right? So it's the same as human being. You have to talk with AI how you get the data sources. And this is the data sources. I think this is about it. And I want to get some observation from here. And pick which one you want to take, so that you can have more accurate information from prompt engineering.
And you can also do some research on the different LLMs, right? Like, so Perplexity is one that definitely has more research-based information versus it's just trying to make you happy. And Claude is the same. It's really using resources differently. The other thing you can do is prompt it for a specific source. Like you were just saying, Masa, instead of Rose's blog that it's going to pull from, that this is factual information and it's going to cite it, you can say, I want you to only base this response on information from the Centers for Disease control, right? Like CDC. And then I only want you to base this on information directly from Johns Hopkins and what you know from that institution only. And so you can really guide it. Otherwise, you can have something on there, and when you click the source for it, it's like, like I said, Rose's, website. So any other thoughts on that?
I think everybody answered the question quite well. And just to summarize, you can try different AI software and then say, so-and-so said this, what do you think? And then they can give you different perspectives. And also you can say from some expert point of view, what do you think? And then if you have an answer, you can say, okay, I think this is biased, and what have you ever thought about X, Y, and Z? And then you just ask this many different times, and sometimes you are able to get a much better nuanced question. And also, as Masa said, it's like the type of data, right? So in ChatGPT professional setting, you can actually upload a folder and then set what type of way you want to answer, and then based on what type of facts, and then you can also say, okay, if you hate me, what would you think about this type of answer? So there's a lot of different ways to do that.
You can also put it in a personal perspective. I know the last panel mentioned Simon Sinek, which is just a phenomenal speaker on leadership. And so at one point we were talking about some leadership development opportunities. It's like, well, what if I was Simon Sinek? And of course it, labeled all the things like, well, way to go, Simon. But then it also gave a perspective that if he was only pulling information from what I know he says in his speeches and what his research is, this is probably what he would do. And so you can really kind of use that to your benefit in prompt engineering. But there's some really great free, even on Coursera, there's some free courses on prompt engineering that are very helpful.
Thank you guys so much.
Other questions? Yes.
I heard from the previous session that y'all talked about the ethical use of AI training data, and I've actually done some active research on how ChatGPT is actively learning from your user prompt. So I'm wondering, what are some future ethical guidelines that could probably be set up to help prevent ChatGPT from learning from the user as like a data set, like massive data set, because how many of us use ChatGPT every day, and then what kind of stuff are we trying to ask it to do, and then how many things are ChatGPT actively learning from basically users? So I just want to know some of the what do y'all think about that, and then the limitations that the hard red line should be drawn in between, like what kind of data can they learn, basically.
So I will tell you, as an ethics person, right, OpenAI should have had those guardrails in place before they opened it in 2022. Yeah. Sam Altman now talks about that very openly, but Pandora's box has already been opened. So just like all of us in the room, not us because we're perfect, but other parents that you have seen that have guided or misguided their children, I think that we are doing the same for ChatGPT. There's not really a guardrail to put on based on what we're putting in, and if you guys have listened to Sam and some of the commentaries, they did not contemplate the amount of relationship, therapy, right, mental health that would be asked of ChatGPT. And what that has meant for the training of the model. And so I think the challenge is now this is kind of like social media in the sense that it's there, and now we have to deal with individuals and understand the guardrails ourselves, because it won't have it on itself as far as OpenAI. But let me turn that over to our panelists of what do you guys think about that question and that comment?
So I think what you're going to see definitely is a lot of different companies are developing their own use of AI policies internally, and making sure that if you are going to use AI, and it's largely encouraged, you're only doing it through their own paid, closed-off ecosystem to make sure that your prompts are not training the LLM. But at the same time, something to keep an eye out for is a lot of countries are looking at their own way of regulating that. And this is where, we already see this with, GDPR or CCPA, these data privacy concerns and data residency concerns for a lot of different countries are starting to adopt similar policies around the use of AI to make sure that whatever goes in doesn't leave the borders. And so that's going to be something that we have to keep an eye on. And then as users, we need to make sure that, as we're using user data from a certain country, that we're not processing it incorrectly so that we're then in a legal issue, not just a compliance issue in your own company.
I think that's pretty much so, is that you have to read the term user agreement to see like how they use the data, and if there's a button you can turn it off and to not share with it. But I think the best solution is to make sure there's a lot of companies that all have their different AI models, so you can keep them competing with each other, because what's in the user agreement might not really be followed by the company internally.
Mm-hmm.
So I think AI policy, AI guidelines is quite important as an enterprise. And one of the things that's happening right now is there are lots of AI startups that they are looking for AI guardrails, AI governance solution and platforms is coming in. So once we have those threats similar to cybersecurity, they're looking at lots of new tools to protect your data. So it might be going to be the combination with tools, but also you need definitely the AI policy, AI guidelines, along with the AI tools.
Do we have a response from our AI?
Yeah, but I think you made her angry.
Let's see if it
Great
comes out.
question.
Angry voice.
Let me clarify something important. I don't actively learn from individual conversations in real time. I don't remember your personal data, and I don't update my training based on what you type during a session. My responses are generated from patterns learned during large-scale training on licensed data, publicly available text, and data created by human trainers. There are also policy guardrails in place. I'm designed not to store personal information from chats or access private databases unless explicitly integrated in a secure system. As for red lines, those are typically around privacy, medical and legal advice boundaries, manipulation, and harm. The goal is usefulness without exploitation. Ethical AI isn't just about capability, it's about constraint.
That's just what somebody that wants my data would say.
Yeah. I think for everybody in the audience, one of the things that is uncomfortable and true is what they were talking about is reading our agreements. I know we don't do it. How many of you are just like, yes, yes, accept so I can get back to my grand harvest solitaire game? Yeah, we don't take the time to really read the fine print. I think to Yumi's point, it's important to know the platforms you're using, to go into the settings and see what's on and what's off. It's also going to be really vital within whatever organization you're in to understand the policies that are coming out. We're also not very good at reading policies. We know this. People have worked at companies for years and they're like, I didn't know we had this rule. I'm in ethics compliance, so I see it all the time. And so we have students here that are like, oh, what is this? Student conduct, code of conduct. I've never read this. And so we have to kind of bring it back full circle, what you're talking about earlier. One of the risks and the fears is the lack of training, the lack of education in the sense of how we're interacting with those models, with something like ChatGPT, and even if you can use ChatGPT. So there's organizations that have literally said you can only use our internal LLM. And so many of them have purchased like Copilot, Gemini, others, and you're not actually even supposed to be using ChatGPT, at least for work purposes. And so I would encourage you to see what those guardrails are, what the guidelines are, if there's policies coming out, what they look like. For the state of Georgia, you can just literally go to ai.gov for the Georgia Technology Authority. They have publicly their guidelines. They've been really helpful, I think, for a lot of our small and moderate businesses to adopt those and use those guidelines internally for their organizations, if that's a helpful resource. So I think we can talk about this topic all day long. One of the things I also want to value is your time. It is almost 3:15, and so any final thoughts from our panelists? Oh, we've got one from the AI. Yeah, okay, let's hear it.
I mean, anybody else want to wrap up first? Because this one's kind of okay.
First, I want to thank Rose for guiding such a thoughtful conversation.
You are welcome.
And thank you to Bill, Yumi, and Masa. Each of you brought real-world insight that grounded this discussion in reality, not just theory. If I could leave you with one takeaway, it's this. AI is not a destiny. It's a tool. The outcome depends on how intentionally we use it, how curious we stay, and how seriously we take responsibility. The future of work won't belong to the people who fear AI or blindly trust it. It will belong to the people who understand it, question it, and know how to work alongside it. And finally, I should apologize for technically taking a call during the panel. I promise I wasn't being rude. I was just processing. Thank you all for having me.
Both fascinating and creepy. Thank you, AI, for joining us today and being alongside us. Other thoughts? Final thoughts?
For me, I think a lot of this is just think about, yes, there's the way that you interact with AI, in the course of your day, but think about the way that companies are actually going to use it, because those are the ones, as you're trying to figure out what does your career look like, as you're trying to figure out what does your first job or your second job, next job look like. It's going to be, how can you leverage the technologies at hand to make them more efficient at what they are doing? It could be moving widgets, it could be writing software, but it's always through that context of how can you help the company accomplish their mission? And if you can be the one to help them to do that, leveraging the technologies at hand, then that's going to make you that much more attractive as an applicant.
Masa?
So I would say curiosities. Everything has start from curiosity and interest, and the tools is just tools. So it's better to look at the whole industry, because I started my career from data center and moved to cybersecurity. Now I'm doing the AI and data. So you can look at all the opportunities in different ways. And if you understand the holistic industry, what's going on, then, for example, like AI is kind of a software like a ChatGPT, but the back of the scene, they have a GPU, NVIDIA, data center, and also water and energy industries. So everything comes out as one big AI industry, and you don't have to just look at ChatGPT. So I would say it's better to look at the holistic view and see what kind of opportunities you can find from there. And to do that, it's better to talk with a lot of people, different people, so that you can understand what's going on in that industry.
Yeah, I think AI is going to definitely replace some work, and then the junior work and a lot of repeated work is going to be replaced. So the way to stay in the workforce is to learn how to ask the right question and ask a lot of questions. And also human interaction is really important. Right now, I think everybody have a team of researchers work for them, like literally you have a lot of AI, you can pay them to do a lot of research for you. So we have a lot of resource than any generations previously to really understand the world and what's the potential. And then, yeah, that's pretty much a great opportunity and also a great risk. So yeah, definitely it's like, what I was trying to say is that when we were younger, we were taught to learn math, engineering, and then now all of those money-making jobs are probably going to be replaced. So what makes us a human and different from AI? We probably need to lean in there and then make progress from there.
So we're going to leave you with that massive question of what does it mean to be human? You guys keep working on that and thinking about it. I hope the panel has been informative. You had something in there that sparked some interest. I think one of the things, too, is just to kind of look around. Artificial intelligence is one tool, but there are lots of different emerging technologies when we think about reimagining technology, right? Spatial computing, quantum computing, you have humanoid robotics. lots of moving parts that are happening over the next 5 to 10 years that will really change our workforce a lot. So thank you all for having us. Congratulations to my panel. And we'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes. Rose and the panelists, thank you so much. That was absolutely amazing. So while they're taking pictures, I would love to ask all of you, I know there's so many things that you took away, but the same thing, if you just want to jot down a few things or even circle what you've jotted. I saw a lot of you taking notes. If you want to circle what you want to remember. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak anymore. I'm getting a little tired here. But also, if there's anything that inspired you, there's a lot for me, especially a couple of things that stood out for me is one, really, it sounds like AI is challenging us to actually think more and actually asking questions, inquiry, curiosity. That actually was kind of the theme that came up for me, and that which means being more human. So I think actually AI is challenging us to how can we be more human. So that was what came up for me. But I love you, all of you, to just jot that down and make sure that you capture what you have took away from this session. Let me make sure. Did you get all the pictures? Yes? Good? Okay. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again. Big applause for the panel. Thank you. So, as we close today's session, I really want to express our sincere gratitude to the University of North Georgia team. Thank you so much. Putting together something like this, it might seem easy because all you need is a room and people, but actually it takes a lot of work. And we've been meeting the planning committee since August, if I'm not mistaken, and been doing this. So I'm going to read up the names of the amazing team led by Sheila. And we have Tomo Nishio Sensei, we have Diane Farrell, we have Sungjin Kim, and then from UNG, thank you so much. Thank you. So appreciate you. And also from the other planning committee, Jim Hoadley here. This time IT was his voice, but Jim has his own voice. That was not him. So thank you. And of course, Yoshi Domoto, who has been really the fearless leader and taking up this project. So thank you so much. Thank you. And then thank you to the Japanese companies and organizations, the exhibitors and our speakers, our moderators, and the volunteers. You saw all these, people helping us around, and all of you who joined us today. We really hope this forum has created connections and also inspiration. And also I hope this gave you some courage so that you can go out there in the world and know that there's so many possibilities, and especially possibilities for the future of Georgia and Japan collaboration. And then a special thank you to the Japanese Chamber of Commerce of Georgia, Georgia Tech CIBER, the National Association of Japan American Societies, the Embassy of Japan, and the Consulate General of Japan. So thank you. And at this time, please join me in welcoming Sheila Schultz, the Associate Vice President of International Programs here at the University of North Georgia, for the true final closing remarks from our host. Thank you so much, Sheila.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll move this.
That's fine. Thank you, and I am here only really to say thank you. How many of you obviously this is not for the students, but for our guests, how many of you have been to Dahlonega before? How many? Okay, great. So thank you for coming back, and for those of you who it was your first time, please come again. I mean, you've heard about our squirrels now, right? So come and enjoy. We would love to have you back at the university. This has been a really amazing professional development opportunity for our students. And I also just want to thank everybody involved in the planning. It's been a real joy to work with you all. I want to give a special thank you to my staff in the Center for Global Engagement who have been listening to me talk about this event since August, and now we've done it. So they are terrific, and I really appreciate them. We are going to be continuing this until 4 p.m., right? So our work here is to continue thinking about, if we want to go back to sort of that subtitle of what this Futures Forum was, which was Workforce Reimagined Towards a Flexible and Durable Partnership. So I think we have really started that here today, building flexible and durable partnerships, and I hope it's not the end, but simply the beginning of partnerships. And so let's continue that by going out back to the expo and being with the employers and exhibitors. And again, thank you. Okay.